I wanted to touch on this idea that we're always using Revit. We tend to talk about everything as if Autodesk and Revit were the only BIM modelers around. And I wanted to introduce you to at least a couple of other pieces of software that is in the family of BIM modelers and really effective, powerful tools, um, equals, if not in some ways superior to the Revit product that we use. The reason I don't teach them as a primary one is because the Revit software is kind of ubiquitous in practice. It's the go-to software that firms are using, and it adequately meets our needs. It's available for free to us, and so, but it's important for you to know that Vectorworks and GraphSoft ArchiCAD are both BIM modelers that have huge success, but in a much smaller part of the pie. They're used by leading firms, so there's no reason to think that these aren't full players in the system. And I think I have these hyperlinks so you can go out to the individual site and see what they do. It turns out that Vectorworks is Nemetschek is the company that owns them. Actually, I consulted for this company for a couple of months. They also own ArchiCAD. It's the same company now. I believe so. I'm not exactly 100% sure of that. It used to say, I'll have to allow cookies here. Yes, it's the same company that owns them. And actually, ArchiCAD is really quite sophisticated. It's a wonderful piece of software, probably with a lot of some better tools than we have even inside of Revit. But then, unfortunately, teaching it would require kind of preparing you with this interface and also another one. So I want you to, but that's not to say that you couldn't explore them on your own. So those two are really kind of alternative pieces of software. Let me go back to full screen here. Another BIM software is Chief Architect. Surprisingly, this software has been around for a long time, and so at one time I looked at it and didn't think much of it, and then recently I saw it again and did some exploration of it, and it's really quite a sophisticated piece of programming right now. And what's really cool about this program is the interface is very similar to Revit. This is a little bit more affordable than Revit, but it does a whole lot of things that's really specifically oriented to home builders. So if your interest or your practice goes around, residential type building, this could be a piece of BIM software that would be a great solution for you. And like I said, when you really get into the program, it turns out that the software is really quite similar to Revit. Now, there's some non-BIM software not really intended to be for the building industry, that is really hugely useful, and you'll hear talked about quite a bit in certain parts of architectural design. And one of them is Rhinoceros. It's a 3D modeling program. It is very popular for creating freeform surfaces because it's been used in the boat building industry, in jewelry making, all kinds of places where complex curvilinear surfaces need to be generated. And one of the things that's really changed with this is that sat out of the BIM world. All of these tools and components for doing these kind of designs weren't available if you wanted to create architectural models, so to speak, or architectural design drawings and that. I mean, you could, but it was relatively complicated. One of the new changes, though, is that a kind of a breakthrough is that Rhino now can run inside of Revit. And this is way more sophisticated than you really need to know right now. But in future years in school or in studio, you may want to actually experiment with using Rhinoceros, and it's really important, or Rhino as it's known as. You should be aware that you can actually run it right inside of Revit, which means that you can create a 3D surface inside of Rhinoceros, and it will exist right inside of Revit, so you can apply all kinds of walls and other kind of BIM modeling properties to it. And then there's non-BIM modeling software, and SketchUp is obviously the one that comes to the top of the list. And for the first time user of it, it can seem like, well, why aren't I using these? They're free, they're very easy to use, they're very intuitive. And one of the reasons is that it's not it's not a BIM component. It isn't smart about the elements that you create. They keep trying to improve it to make it more like a BIM modeler, but its basis and its push isn't for that. And so I don't want to steer you away from it, but I want you to understand that idea that it won't perform in the kind of robust way that an architect needs a piece of software going forward, I guess, in the future world of architectural practice, with the integration with other kinds of vendors, contractors, subcontractors, structural analysis, all of those things. With that said, though, we're in the learning environment, and SketchUp's a great way to create forms very quickly to kind of hash out ideas. And then once again, there's also this idea that you can make a model in SketchUp and import it into Revit. And, frankly, for a lot of your architectural education, the full idea of a BIM model is not necessarily important. Many times you're trying to work through just general ideas and concepts about the way you want your architecture to look. And so, but just be aware that it's a non-BIM modeling software, and that can be very critical in the future. Another question that comes up is, should I learn AutoCAD? Autodesk kind of creates a little bit of information on that. You can actually Google it again. I say there's no easy answer, but some things to consider. AutoCAD is sometimes used because of its history and library and construction details that a firm has. So construction details, like a way a foundation connects to something else, might be well drawn in AutoCAD, and they continue to use it because they have that drawings available to them, and they may want to make modifications to them. It could be that some of your consultants use AutoCAD. But it really isn't the primary design platform. At school, the reason we might want to use AutoCAD is for its 2D capabilities in order to drive a laser cutter to print out or plot out something that we might be using for model making. But I don't make it a focus of this course, especially no formal training to learn the interface. You're kind of on your own for that. So that kind of covers some software issues, and we'll actually get into the details of this module coming up, and kind of explain some of the terms next.